in you come.
That's completely fair, I suppose. That means I get to talk about how
exactly.
Everything happens in this game. That's really exciting. Okay, I'm seeing things. I'm seeing a lot of things. This is all right.
Pouring down your screen.
Yes.
What are you seeing? What's interesting?
The phase rush for Drakthar. I hear a lot of people complain about this, like an unreasonable amount of complaints about specifically this rune choice. I don't know what it is about people at the highest possible level of play, because I see phase rush every once in a while on a Hecarim, and I'm like, it seems reasonable, right? Like, he likes to go fast. That's a fast rune. But, like, the benefit of having a Hecarim in the early stage of the game is, number one, your ganking is really good. This doesn't help with ganking because you have to hit people to use it. And number two, it doesn't help with dueling nearly as much as you would imagine, as much as, like, Conqueror would, which is also a pretty typical rune for Hecarim. So the question is, like, what's the phase rush for? Like, so you can go fast inside of a duel? Again, the question is who exactly he's going to be brawling with, that he's going to need the extra movement speed as opposed to extra healing and damage, or something that could replace it that could be better ganking.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. It kind of, any time that phase rush is good, Conqueror would just be better.
Mm-hmm.
It is an interesting choice. Love to hear his thoughts on it. Maybe it was just a little bit of Hecarim go fast, so do phase rush. So we see a little mouse going for a run. It's all good. Yes. Where are your eyes drawn? What matchup do you think is going to be the pressure point? Where do you think the junglers are going to be having a look towards?
I'm looking mostly at mid lane. Well, actually, we're seeing that right now.
That we are, as Fook moves in, and Gloria just has to respect it and flash.
Yeah, the important part about this mid lane matchup is not only, first off, both junglers are capable of dueling and affecting side lanes pretty effectively, and so having your mid push is always beneficial because your mid laner is going to move first. But more influentially, obviously, like, Ahri has a bunch of mobility and can make impact on side lanes on her own, as can, the Vex, when the Vex actually gets into a similar state where the ultimate comes in and you're able to kind of clamp things off. It's a very effective tool for being able to get into a side lane as well. So whoever's mid laner is winning in a matchup, or at least have wave control over top of the other one, is going to be in a really good state to help affect kind of like, first off, Dragon, Rift Herald, that kind of thing much quicker. And so I'm expecting for mid lane to be a bit of a target of affection for both junglers here, no matter the situation.
Interestingly, both of these junglers kind of struggle to gank the mid lane just because of champion dynamics. Vex with that fear, if that's locked and loaded, you can't really get onto her, and Ahri can just kind of throw a charm at a lumbering volley bear. Speaking of the lumbering boy, Ryuk is trying to try and turn this around. The flash has already been burned, as Fook knows. He has to get out of there. Well done there by Skye.
It is an early game Gnar, and so Gnar is down CS, does lost a bit of health in the early trading. And again, Ryuk does pick this champion for a reason, and it's because he's very well versed at the Renekton pick. And so in this, like, Renekton versus Gnar matchup, he understands how to punish the Gnar in the earlier stage of the laning phase. And that was clear right there, because Fook 1 came in on a pretty early gank. Drakthar was on the top side of the map. And so immediately Ryuk turned off the Gnar and he said, okay, I'm just going to go fight the Volibear immediately, because as soon as I have reinforcements, the fight is over. And Fook 1 actually, I think, had a really impressive defensive flash there, which is not a thing that you usually want to do. But right there, if he doesn't flash immediately, it's almost certainly a death sentence that comes through after the stun keeps him in place and allows for Drakthar to get involved in a fight like that. So props to him for being able to have the forethought to get away from that. But like you said, there's this guy, especially Ryuk right there, actually playing that pretty well.
Yeah, I completely agree. So now that Fook's flash is down, it should be Drakthar with the run of the map. Still has access to that ghost. His pun is really taking punishment in this matchup. Not able to step up to this Renekton at all. And, sometimes you wonder why it's a counter pick.
Yeah, you do sometimes. I wonder if we do get punishment or pun v9 as our two dichotomies of pun here, because most of the split has been pause. I think part of that is champion pool differences, because obviously, like, when Graves was around, that was a pause champion. There were a couple of other pause champions that were kind of in the meta, and for the most part, pun was playing things like the Tom Kench and the Mundo and all these, like, lane stalling type picks in the previous split that did make him look great when he was on weak side. But for the most part, when you had more damage in the top lane, it felt like pause, that was the reason that they had him in a lot at the beginning of the split, since those champions have fallen off the board, and now you're looking at, like, Gnar is back in terms of, like, the meta, and a bunch of other champions that are a bit back, more lane stalling. I expect to see more of pun as the play continues.
Yeah, now Glory having to find a way out, and he gets over towards his horse. Fook still coming down on him, but I don't think that's going to be the decision as the Spirit Rush forward. Fook very low. Drakthar, this is really dangerous, but it works out as he eases through. He's going to pay for it with his life as Yado goes over and trades it back. So, first blood for a Hecarim versus an assisted kill for a Vex.
It's a really interesting trade-off, because at the beginning of the game, obviously, the Hecarim can snowball into a pretty menacing force, especially against very weak carries. So if you use the Hecarim to start punishing the Gnar on the top side, the Jinx on the bottom side, get your Zarya ahead, things go well. I do have reservations about whether that is something that's going to happen, though, which is a problem. This whole fight actually started off the back of, like, Glory's level 6, which is nice, but neither mid laner really has mana to play out a situation. And so, when Fukwon comes diving in and Glory's able to get out relatively safely, Drakthar walks into a fight that's already in a winning situation. Yes, he dives under the tower. Yes, he gets the kill. He trades it over to Yado. I think grand scheme of things, it ends up being much better for the side of Cerberus because they get the kill into the Vex. But again, Drakthar does now provide counterplay for his team because getting that first blood means that the Hecarim is a little further ahead. And if you attack some of the weaker lanes that you got for Cerberus, then all of a sudden things can go pretty easily in your direction. So we'll see if Sky can kind of jump the mid-game timer they've been used to with the power that the Hecarim got from the first blood.
Yeah, interestingly, I do think there is actually a lot of value in potentially giving your Hecarim goal, particularly around a Rift Herald, but the shadows are surging.
Oh my.
The bear is landing. And I thought there was meant to be an Ahri there.
I thought that there was too. Bears do hunt foxes naturally. Apparently, that is the case. As that's like the third time I think that Fukwon has actually popped up into the mid lane there, up against the Glory, who still was down the flash. I think until just seconds ago, the flash was still down from that initial gank, which is kind of crazy. Just how much influence that made, because it led to the first blood and now led to 2 additional kills out of the mid lane. But it continues to prop up Yado on this Vex pick consistently to open up the river for more like kind of challenges and such. And so now Dragon stacking for Cerberus, they're comfortable with the late game situation they can be in, and that leads to Burst the Sky kind of posturing around topside. Neither bot lane has made a move quite yet, neither support is level 6. We'll see if that makes a difference, but Fukwon wants bottom side.
That they do, is Ron OP, he is on fire but does not burn down. And tell a lie, yes he does. That is a 1 kill going over many. Artemis having to flash around. Yado is here, but there's no shadows. Spook now burns the flash as well. Can't turn the tower off. This is a disaster for Cerberus. They're still in danger. There is a collapse coming as well. But Glory is not bold enough to go through the river. So they will be able to get the rest of them out.
I think the attempted play coming out from Cerberus here is that they understand that Drakthar is going to be on the reverse side of the map going for a Rift Herald play, and rather than trying to move up the map unnecessarily and like force your way into a Hecarim play and into like a Renekton side of the map, they just say, okay, let's make a play on the cross side since we just took the dragon. The expectation might not be there for Sky to have that happen. But of course, Rakan is an incredibly defensive champion and Zeri is very highly mobile, so it makes it difficult to get this full engagement into the bottom side, especially since Fukwon didn't have the ultimate. Now, if Fukwon has ultimate, all of a sudden you go diving under the tower with the Volibear ultimate, and both of them probably die. But again, since that tool was used in the mid lane, they were down one of the best diving tools that they had in the game. And so right there, Sky able to use their defensive bottom side to really kind of thwart everything that happened right here. You can see Ron OP got there a little pretty quickly. Again, Fukwon no ultimate. And you can see how much damage Ron OP actually took before either one of them got there, which is a little surprising to me. I actually, like, the damage was pretty high into an Alistar that didn't quite have the ultimate yet. So perhaps that was also something that kind of cost them.
Yeah, this is something that has been talked about quite a lot, is taking this Glacial Augment on characters like the Alistar on the Leona. Because without the Aftershock, you're just not actually that tanky on Ali pre-6. And we saw the results of it there. Mm-hmm. Of course, Glacial Augment has tons of positives as well. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
As there is a bit of a move up towards this mid lane, but Ron OP is already there in plenty of time, so there's no real threat here. It's just going to be Vision getting swept out. There's a grand entrance, though. They want to try and get onto this cow, but he's got a blast cone. So again, it is just posturing.
Yeah, just a little bit in putting some vision into the enemy jungle to try to track Fook 1 just a little bit more than what they had previously. Down to the bottom side, again, Drakthar is trying to put some additional pressure down into both Artemis and also, again, assist in Zari's laning phase here. But again, Fook 1 is already around. Drakthar is going to stick around here despite the fact that Volibear is here with an ultimate as well. They've got Glory a little faster than Yato here. Teleport's going to be available for Yato when the time comes. It looks like they're just going to want to kind of posture to take the blue buff instead of anything else. Fook 1's in the area. He can't get with the smite, unfortunately. That's just not going to come through. So there's no bottom side forcing, which is, I think, what the intention was here fully. But because Cerberus actually showed a number of members in defense to the bottom side, and the fact that Yato eventually did cancel out, did have the TP, it was really difficult for Sky to force anything. So this is a bit of showing of good decision-making, actually, I think, from the side of Sky. Because, again, in Winter, that was something I gave them a lot of credit for. And this is a situation where that could have gone very badly if they forced.
Pun moving forward here. He's got the Narbar built up. Dominus already used. As Ryuk takes a lot of punishment, has to spend the ult, but we go immediately down to the bottom side, where Fook is having to burn his ult to get out, but immediately a Hecarim ult turns around onto him. He's got a lot of shielding, though, as well as the backup of his team. Almina, you are on the wrong side of the tracks, my friend. He's taken down, and that's just a free kill gifted over to Cerberus.
I'm not sure how this entire thing started. I know that fight started really quickly. Good amount of damage into Glory right there from Yato. Yeah, because Yato's ultimate was actually down before we even arrived at the bottom side fight. I'm not sure who kind of warranted that the fight began. There was a Rift Herald dropped as well before anything else inside of the river that ended up getting to the bottom tower and knocking down a couple of plates, but I think all of that gold went into the Volibear. So I'm a little lost as to what happened on the bottom side. It appears as though maybe it's possible the players are a little lost on what happened on the bottom side as well, because it appears as though we've gone to a pause, and this might be a tech pause because of something that happened off screen when we weren't quite there.
Possibly. Because it definitely looked very strange how players ended up where they did. But as I said, we didn't see it. We were watching somewhere else on the map. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the observers, so we don't have any more information than you do, dear chat. And it appears that the pause was very much temporary. Oh, no, this is a replay, sorry. I tell a lie.
Yeah, so Yato had actually dumped the ultimate into Drakthar, which was a little bit interesting. I think Drakthar might have actually blocked it because it was an attempt from Yato to get into the backline as they had gone on to Fook 1. His stopwatch stopped so much right there. I can appreciate the tool is one of the best in the entire game. It's ridiculously strong when used in the right situation, and that was exactly the reason. One of those situations right there was Fook 1 being able to pop that in the midst of a fight to slow everything down, bought enough time for a lot of members from Cerberus to collapse all at once.
That is now a second plate being picked up by Almina. The CS is very even in the bot lane, but 2 tower plates going over to a Jinx, I'm getting a little bit worried.
Now, again, the Rift Herald did crash into the bottom side, and it looks like it ended up getting 4 plates. I don't know if it was around for all 4 of those plates, but I do know Drakthar is the one that dropped it and was the only beneficiary. I don't think Amina was around for those. Which means the Hecarim, once again, is this massive beneficiary for not only the first blood that he went diving for, but also now the Rift Herald that got dropped on the bottom side of the map. And so, again, it's Draktar's onus of having the gold and having to try to use it to get somebody ahead in a situation like this. And the attempt has been to go down to the bottom side, which I think makes sense because you've got Eomine and you've got him on a Zeri right here, and you've got additional gank set up with Elio, but nothing is really stuck, which is unfortunate on the bottom side. You have to find a way to make an impact somewhere. I think assisting Glory a little bit in the laning phase, especially now that Yato's got 2 kills. Again, this is something that you could revisit. You could also revisit Renekton, just making sure that Pun isn't going to get a chance to just like bully him in the laning phase, because it's starting to get to the point where, again, the damage is starting to pile up.
Pun's in trouble, has the Narbar, knocks them away. Drakthar's going to use the ultimate, but a flash should get him under the tower, into the wallop. And I don't think Sky can continue this play. Nope.
They gank for topside, actually play under the bottom side as well.
Yeah, this is just going to be zoning. If they can't pick up a kill, regardless, it's good. As the rocket comes in just to deal some damage. Yardo's here, maybe a bit of an overcommit. But it will guarantee that Artemis is getting a hell of a lot of gold. And this is looking like the Cerberus we have known and loved in the past. Give gold to Artemis and let him do the rest.
Yeah, the one deficit to this for the side of Sky is, again, if they've got Rift Herald, they certainly take top tower first, but because they've actually leaned into top side where there wasn't much damage being taken from the tower because Ryuk wasn't able to push in Gnar all that far, they're slower on the first tower take. So they got more plates on the bottom side tower, but ended up losing their own bottom side tower first in the trade, where the Jinx is getting 100% of that gold, and everybody else had left at the time, while simultaneously giving up Dragon. So there is benefits to this play from Sky, because they get gold, they put it onto two really good kind of mid-game members in this Renekton and in this this Hecarim to be able to fight with, but you are giving up quite a bit. They have a gold advantage right now, which is not entirely shocking because of the way that things have played out. But again, when it comes to gold allotment, Artemis has a good amount, Yato's got a good amount, and they're the ones with the first 2 dragons of the game, which means Cerberus do have a fair amount of control compared to what Sky would want them to have at this point.
It feels like a ticking clock. Looming over Sky. They need to grow this lead, or I'm not super confident them playing into the potential soul for Cerberus, as Elio turns around at a very opportune time. Of course, he had vision, but still, that hasn't stopped Elio in the past.
I think this is a position Ryuk's actually going to pick up bottom tower, where the Renekton is so powerful that this is actually your win condition inside of the mid game. Is if you can generate some kind of a fight around the Rift Herald where the TP is available or Ryuk is able to get there, that's kind of where you want to be. You want Cerberus to fight you as fast as possible before the Jinx really gets going, before a bunch of penetration gets built from the Vex and starts to kind of take over fights in a really significant way. Because right now, the Renekton, when you press ultimate, is still doing really good damage, is still sustaining very well in a fight. You can see Gloria and Pink on the side.
Speaking of fighting, it's Yato going in very deep with that Vex ult, flashing over the wall to try and get himself out of there, but he will go down, but it's a huge knock-up from Rono P to Anton back, will get them their second kill, and now Artemis is able to run forward on this big Jinx. They turn their attention back to the Rift Herald, but he is still zoning them away with the rockets. They just can't walk into this Jinx, at least not until Ryuk arrives. Into the backside goes Elio, zoning Artemis out even further, but Ryuk is still massive, so is the Zeri, as she spools up that movement speed, and it's a double kill over to Almine.
And the combination of the move speed and the range coming out from Amine means that it's harder for Artemis to actually trade back into Zeri. So despite a couple of kills in the Rift Herald going into the pockets of Cerberus, again, it's the fight going to the side of Sky. I kind of wanted Ryuk to jump off the bottom wave faster and end up rotating into Rift Herald so this could turn into a pure 5-on-5. So I think had Ryuk been there a little faster, they could have even won that fight harder, even taken the Rift Herald potentially. But you can see the impact that they have when they've got the Zeri walking inside of a team fight, able to kind of kite around the side and do a bunch of work here. And this started with the pick onto Glory, which I think was fine. But look how far back Glory gets in a fight that forces out Yato's ultimate and flash. And that's so many tools that one of the very powerful members of this team goes down to. Then Artemis gets to kind of work front to back in a fight like this. But look how much damage is thrown on Amine. Amine is actually really high health. Renekton is here extremely fast compared to what the Gnar is able to accomplish. And that means that, again, Ryuk, look how much damage Artemis is doing. Basically nothing to the Renekton. It allows for this angle where Amine gets to stand behind Ryuk as Ryuk kind of encroaches upon the territory of Cerberus and ends up winning them a pretty big fight, all things considered.
Yeah, that was actually just really well played there by Sky. Almine had a lot of mechanical prowess, managing to stay over the wall as the Zeri. One of the advantages, you don't always need to be able to click on people, as you can kind of just rattle bullets over. Yeah, overall good stuff. In the end, I don't think Cerberus is too disappointed. It's obviously a bad situation, but it's not the end of the world, as they did get the Herald.
Yeah, I mean, taking stock of everything, I mean, you're still on almost 2-item Jinx, which is slightly ahead of where, like, the Zeri is going to be. Even though Zeri is powerful, like, Jinx is going to be equally powerful. That was a fight where Yato went out really quickly, but again, as soon as Yato's on, like, 2-3 items and can full burst Glory, or can full burst Zeri, or can full burst Elio even inside of a fight like this, then that situation doesn't arise where, like, Yato has to burn everything as well as a flash just to keep going forward to find one pick off in a fight, which is, I think, a little bit of what cost them in that last one was just, again, Yato spending so much just for the 1-for-1 trade that ended up coming through after burning everything, when you could have been a lot more valuable inside of a fight like that. So Cerberus is cool with where they're at inside of a game like this. They've got Dragon control. They're not down a ridiculous amount. But this is where Sky really has thrived previously. Sometimes, in fact, more often than not, they're down about 2,000 gold at this point in the game. And they end up turning things around instead of equalizing or even getting a gold advantage in the mid game before either taking over or or like losing a game like this, but having a gold advantage and being able to use it inside of a mid game is something that we don't see very often from Sky. So I'm kind of excited to see what they're able to do, because again, they've got powerful members to be able to fight around Dragon. Taking third, fourth Dragon is completely within the realm of reality for them.
100%. And I'm really excited to see Almene on this Zeri. He's in a great position, has that first item built up, not too far away from the second. This is a champion that stylistically suits this player. We obviously know him as a huge Lucian player, Callisto player, but we'll have to come back to it as there's a catch straight onto the bear. Fook has been removed from the fight. Into the backside goes Punt. He lands a massive Gnar into an even bigger wallop as the damage is there, but they've still got to deal with this big Renekton who is able to hold them back for so long, but now it's Sky on the retreat, and somehow that fight is only a 1-for-1, but I think there's about to be a round 2.
Oh my goodness. Well, does Yado actually have the ultimate? Yado doesn't have the ultimate, isn't able to get in. The one problem with Cerberus now is they don't really have anything to buy space with.
Oh, lovely catch.
There we go.
That's really well done. Now Yado, he is caught high and dry. He has that stopwatch to buy himself some time. And now they are wrangled into the pit against a Jinx, pinned up against the wall and shot down like the dogs they are, as Cerberus come back in and win the second half of the fight.
They really didn't have that much space to work with when it comes to what was able to stand in front of the damage there from Cerberus, which is what caused them to be so tenuous walking into a pit like that, and what got Sky that big win. But when a whole member kind of walks out the pit, I think it was 2 full members who dive over the pit just to find the pick off of Pun so that Pun can't do anything. All of a sudden, it opens up for Artemis and Yado to walk directly in. Now we have actually more action. Artemis extends very far, getting the mid tower. Ends up going down for
it. That's silly. And this is something Artemis has done more than I'd like recently. He did it in that gun game. And it was a huge reason that they ended up not winning. Let's have a look at the replay here, because this corridor was painful.
That's so good from Pun, too. He finds this incredible angle. But again, look where Artemis is at, look where Yado's at. Yes, they do get the 1-for-1 fight altogether. I'm looking at Ron OP's health bar and Pun's health bar because you lost Fook 1, you have no smite, and your 2 main frontliners are down so much health. I thought it was going to be really difficult for Cerberus to enter here. But again, when 2 members walk over, especially when one of them is Ryu, you have no way of deterring them from walking directly into the pit. Yes, Elio gets back over, but it opens up a position where Artemis now can free fire into multiple members of the pit. Good on Ron OP also to find that double knockup, because it bought space and it actually bought 2 full rockets for Artemis to kind of take over inside of there. Yes, he did end up overextending, but this is the team fight that's available for Cerberus when they have frontline and the damage is able to follow adequately. I didn't think they were going to be able to do it, and I want to give a lot of credit to Ron OP being able to snap that one at the end.
We have another catch coming in here in the jungle as Yado's already used that Shadow Surge, moving in, looking for a reset. He's got it, so he can pop off here, but just let Artemis do it instead. Ryuk moving in onto that ADC, forcing the flash away. Glory going low, but will be able to clean up Fook 1 over there with Almine, who's now spooled up, moving on forward, but it doesn't matter when the rest of the team melts away. Cerberus win the fight. Cerberus take a tower.
And a lot of members right there lost just off the knock from Burst the Sky, which was really difficult. And then Ryuk kind of positioning himself with that Hextech gate so far away from his team. Yes, putting potential threat onto Artemis, but it ended up not meaning anything, and it meant that he went down in the process. And so they can't actually get their damaging members into the right position. I talk so often about the ability to buy space for your team, and that's what Renekton is supposed to be for. That's what Drakthar is supposed to be for. Even Elio is supposed to be able to open that up so that Aomine can put in damage into a team fight. But that just was not the case in this previous iteration of the fight, and that buys all this gold for Cerberus. You can see it starts off with a pick into not only Glory going down as one of the damage members, but this is all the people who would buy space for Aomine who can't enter because he's trapped off from the trap line from Artemis and everybody else that can turn in the fight. And again, Ryu gets into a good position, but Aomine's already shifted to the other side. If Aomine remains on the right side of this fight underneath the tower, maybe you could try to rip through Pun, maybe you could try to rip through Artemis, and then all of a sudden it becomes like a 2v3, but you've got your Renekton and your Zeri. But unfortunately, that's not the way the fight played out. They had to play in the same direction as one another, and because Sky wasn't on the same page there, it actually broke onto 2 fronts that end up losing on both sides.
Yeah, and it's starting to feel like fighting in these corridors, it's just banned. Can't do it, Sky. Speaking of which, not the best Shadow Surge I've ever seen, but it doesn't matter. The kill goes over to Artemis regardless. Ryuk rips the Dominus, though. They want to try and get something on the back of this, and they will immediately detonate Artemis. He's removed from the fight. Ryuk, he is still massive. A lot of healing going out, but he's not into the wall, walloped for the stun, and they continue to turn it around. Even without that Jinx damage, Fook charging forward, wants to pick up Elio, clipped his wings, as Yado gets that kill, and they should be able to walk away happy.
Almost a good term actually coming down on the pun, but it's not going to matter. A very rare ADC-less fight here that exists between two teams, which is kind of crazy to talk about because both of them end up getting caught out of position a little bit quickly inside of a fight like that. Oh, Death Brush!
Oh, they've got the catch there. Can they actually turn around? They certainly can, but they need to be able to pick up Glory as well if they really want to make it stick. And they bear down on him easily as Pun is having some fun here on this Gnar. And we criticize this pick a lot, but he is justifying it. He's one of the players that I think is allowed to R5 Gnar, as much as certain analysts in VCS English hate it. It will get the Baron.
It's quite nice, actually, because in a fight where you're down an ADC, it's surprising how much Mini-Gnar can actually fill the void that is missing there. I remember when I first started playing, people were picking Gnar ADC, which was just nonsense at the time, even back then. But, like, you can see when the void is gone and you need consistent damage, having the boomerangs, having the hyper procs, like, there's a lot that Gnar is able to fill the role of. And then when you go into Mega Gnar, obviously, like, you have a lot of benefit to yourself as well. And so in an ADC-less fight, where the threat isn't necessarily there onto the Gnar, where, like, the Gnar is under constant ability of being, like, just, like, picked off by anything like that, especially when Glory isn't really that fed at a game like this, and you've got Trinity Force Black Cleaver, Pun gets a lot of consistent damage alongside Yato, who's still this incredibly powerful mage. And so you have frontline and you have consistent damage for the back end fight. And you get to see that. I'm a little curious why they did the Shadow Surge before the Alistar combo. I was really confused about that. But I love the way that Glory is actually able to put a lot of pressure into Artemis, and Elio is the one that capitalizes on it because, of course, Glory forces him further back up the lane than anything you would want. Ryuk gets caught in between a bunch of members, and they're able to force him down without Glory, again, really having any impact in this fight because there's no consistent damage. They don't have the Gnar. They don't have anything that kind of replaces their ADC in a fight like this. And even though, Pun is in Mega Gnar form, they're able to bring down Ryuk before any challenge of damage actually goes into their team.
Yeah, absolutely. It is always really interesting to when a key piece of a team comp is removed, how the teams adapt. And it was Cerberus that adapted better in that one for sure. As checking in on items, things are getting a little bit dire for the side of Skies. You are staring down a 3-item Jinx, a 3-item Vex. You really have to ask the question, when do these fights get better for you?
Oh, a little bit of shenanigans here. Waiting on Runans is what I'm waiting for from Aamine. I think when that comes through, all of a sudden a fight can come through. Here's Ryuk on the back line.
And they make the call to just go on to Ryuk. This is how you deal with the Horns of the Buffalo. You break one of them off as he gets a lot of healing, but Ron OP is just so tanky in the other side of this fight, able to draw so much aggro. The horse is doing his job well, and it's Zeri time, baby. Zappity zap, zap, zap. It's electrifying gameplay out of Almine as he guns them down, picks up a Quadra, and keeps Sky alive.
And this is another situation in a fight where actually Cerberus has two people try to infringe upon the position of Aamine, but they buy him space forward in this fight between Ryuk's dive in the backline that prevented everybody from putting focus into playing a front to back, and then Drakthar kind of feeling exactly the same role. Eventually, Aamine worked his way through not only Pun, but also Fook1, or I think it was Ron OP and Fook1 that ended up diving onto him before the fight actually played out. And that meant that Aamine gets to play a front to back team fight, which is not how you really want to be playing here. So props to them side. I talked about this a lot in winter, the value of what Ryuk has been able to accomplish on Renekton flanks. And this Renekton flank bought so much time. He couldn't put a bunch of damage into Artemis, which was unfortunate. Didn't survive, I think, nearly as long as he would have wanted to, but did survive for a good amount of time because of the Gore Drinker. And note where Aamine is this entire time. Because, first off, here's Ron OP who tries to get on top of him. And then Fook1 on a flash ultimate is going to try to get on top of him as well to put him back in the forest. But he gets to work his way forward. Now, look at the health bars that are coming through from Cerberus as a combination of a number of things. Both ADCs are pretty healthy, but it's Aamine who actually gets to capitalize on a lot of it more because the front line goes down very quickly and then he's just fighting damage.
And now I was saying things are getting a bit dire for Sky, but suddenly a large injection of gold into a very scary Zeri carry as that is 3.5 items now. And it's a battle of the Zornite ADCs for control of Summoner's Rift.
Extremely good situation as well now for Zeri, because in a front-to-back team fight now, the Runans being able to apply Titanic procs, Trinity Force procs across everybody is going to be really difficult to deal with. And so now Cerberus has to find a way to get on top of Amine inside of a fight, which is difficult because of Elio. And they've got divers to do it with. Like Ron OP with a flash is going to be really hard to kind of dislodge. Fook 1 with a flash is going to be able to get on top. And I'm looking at Punt, because Punt has had a bunch of really good team fights in this game so far. That last one on the bottom side wasn't really indicative of what we've seen from the Gnar so far. But it seems as though Punt has actually really been a crux of the team fighting that's come through. When he has a good ultimate, or when he's positioned to do well inside of a fight, Cerberus does really, really well inside of a fight. But again, that last fight didn't have that big of an impact on the Gnar, wasn't able to make things happen, and that led to Amine kind of being able to free fire into the enemy team. I'm looking at that character, specifically Punt, who we talked about as not being the starter for the majority of the splits, now stepping back in over top of Poss, playing this Gnar pick on R5, which you talked about being something we're comfortable with him doing. That Pun is the one that I'm looking at to really make the challenge into Amine's positioning inside of fights, or even better, like just win the front side of a fight better. Let Artemis kind of take down a lot of the front line that comes through from Burst the Sky ahead of time before anything else.
He's in a lot of trouble. He's dead.
And he doesn't even know it.
He needs to buy time. Only 10 seconds on the dragon that will actually move Cerberus up to Soul Point. So Punt, if he can put on a little bit of fancy footwork, I think he's done enough.
Shot.
He will be going dead. Oh my word! If he gets away,
Oh
no, Drakthar.
No, it's okay.
But he bought a lot of time.
Way more than he should have.
Turbo dead. He was turbo dead.
Yeah, they had 2 people behind him, 2 people in the river. There was no way he was getting out of a situation like that. The fact that he was able to get away that effectively was kind of shocking altogether. But like you said, the punishment of the dragon on the other side of the map buys so much. And the bigger thing is that the better factor of this kill doesn't really matter because it's not Amine. Like, if it's glory, like, you get some benefit from that, right? But Ryuk and Drakthar getting a kill, getting a top tower, like, that goal does nothing.
Artemis is in so much trouble. He can't get away from this Hecarim, but Ron OP can bail him out as Yardo flies in with the Shadow Surge, goes golden immediately. He's in the middle of the enemy team. He's going to be in trouble when he comes out. What has been kept out, it's Bear Season as Artemis is not able to deal the damage. Almine absolutely is, as all of Sky are charging forward. There's the skate over the wall. The chain goes on to the Jinx, and Sky have turned this game well and truly on its head as they are diving down into the underworld, hunting Cerberus down and sending them back to Hades.
And how is it that Burst the Sky has been able to do this in a number of different situations? Pun's got to make the most incredible play happen right now. He's about to be in Mega Form, though.
He certainly is in that mega form, but he doesn't have a lot to work with. They can just wait him out.
He's got to find a good ult.
Got some time. He's got to land something. That's not good enough, Rebel. That's not going to be good enough. And Cerberus, they continue the downward spiral as Sky show the fortitude that we want from them as they pick up the Game 1 victory.
What are the odds?